the first thing we need to understand is, as I think most of you are familiar with, the average sort of amount of papers that we read per year is actually increasing. So if you have this sort of gut feeling that you're reading too many papers, it's actually true, and it's increasing per year. So going back all the way to the 1970s, it's actually doubled almost until recent times. And although this figure here ends at, I think, 2005, the most recent figure still corroborates what we're seeing here, that the number of papers are increasing and increasing, whereas at the same time, the minutes spent per article is actually decreasing. And so what this means is that we're essentially sort of drowning in information, but we're sort of thirsty for knowledge. There's so much noise amongst all of these papers, and we're just trying to find that specific paper that is relevant to our research and to our specific paper. And another thing that we need to sort of keep in mind in terms of the background to the problem that we're addressing is the research note-taking process. At the present moment, most researchers they tend to print out their papers and take notes in the margins. So if you look at this image here, which is taken a few decades ago, we see Einstein in his office with all of these papers. This photo could have been taken yesterday. All that's missing is sort of a monitor, computer monitor, and then it could be any sort of researcher's office. I think most of us, at least I can speak for myself, my office was sort of as cluttered as that one. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to produce the sort of quality of the research that Professor Einstein did, but at least when it comes to cluttered desk, I think we were equals. So this can obviously be fixed. This can be improved because today we have these digital tools that allow us to sort of put things in the cloud, put things online in a digital platform where you can search through all of your notes and where you can organize them effectively. And what this means, essentially, digitizing the academic process. This is what Avidnote is really focusing on. And what it means practically is that it becomes easier to search through all your notes. It becomes easier to organize them and also easier to collaborate. And not to even talk about the actual note-taking process, which becomes sort of facilitated through this digital platform. So if you look at Avidnote, what is Avidnote? Here you see two slides or two images that show basically the UI or the user interface. But Avidnote is essentially a web-based application that researchers can use to write notes more effectively online. And by web-based, I mean, it's not something you need to download. So it's not like, say, an iPhone app or an Android app. You go to the App Store. Rather, you go to the website avidnote.com, just like you would, for instance, if you're using Overleaf or Evernote or something of this nature, where you log into the application online. From there, once you log in and you get an account, which is free, you can upload your PDF papers and you find yourself in a sort of an experience or an interface where you can write your papers on one side of the screen. On the left side, you write your notes, and on the right side, you have the PDF that you're annotating or commenting upon. So it becomes very easy to sort of distinguish between what you're reading and what you're writing, and you don't have to switch between the different sort of windows that, you go from the PDF, you go to the Word and back and forth. So you skip all of that. So Avidnote essentially brings together all of these different phases in the academic writing process: finding new papers, note-taking, and reference management. And this is what I want to talk about in this slide. Essentially, when you're conducting research, when you are finding new papers and you're writing, obviously as researchers, we all come from different backgrounds. Some are more qualitative, some are more quantitative, but we all have the same need when it comes to writing papers, because that's essentially the same for every researcher. You need to cite your references, you need to keep track of what you've read and what is interesting. And the absolute first step always is to find papers, of course. And then to do that, you need to go to something like Web of Science or Scopus, where you have these research databases that aggregate all of this. The next step is usually, you download your papers and you keep track of the references. If you're old school, you do it manually, which is a bit of a headache after a few years. If you want to keep it more lean, then you use something like Zotero or Mendeley or EndNote. And then in the last step, once you're reading your papers, you need to manage your note-taking in some way. The most common way, I think, as most of you are familiar with, is you're working with your, for instance, your supervisor, your academic supervisor, and you're reading a paper, you give it to that person, and he or she, they give you back some comments scribbled on a piece of paper, and then you have all of these scribbled notes everywhere from your supervisor or your colleague that you're working with. So the note-taking process, as it is in the present, is sort of broken for academic writing. You do have some note-taking tools, and some common ones like Evernote and Microsoft OneNote, but they're not really specific for the academic writing experience, which is sort of the whole goal of Avidnote. So if you look at all of these different steps, the first step, finding a paper, you can do that in Avidnote. We have a search bar that is connected to an external database, a research database, so you can find new papers within the app. And then once you fetch the paper or import the paper, you'll be able to save all of the reference citation info automatically. Or if you're uploading a PDF, you can just yourself fill it in manually. And in the third step, you can start taking notes in an experience or a user interface that is sort of molded for the academic writing experience. So if you take a look a little bit when it comes to this user interface, on the left side, you have the notes in longer form, and on the right side, you have the PDF that you're reading. And you can sort of seamlessly annotate in this PDF tool and create tags and organize everything. When you create tags and we go back, you can see here all of the papers that you have, all of the notes, and you can also see all of your tags. And if you click on any of these tags, it will actually sort according to that specific tag. And the tagging system is very important because it addresses one of the main problems in academic writing, which I think most of you are familiar with. And it's where you submit something to your supervisor and you want to, okay, I'm ready to submit this paper. And they're like, I'm going to take a look at it. Just give me a few days, which usually takes a few weeks, to be honest. And then you get those comments, you make the edits, you put in the, you make after all of the corrections, and then the same thing, you get to the cycle. Okay, let me do some more corrections. Let me do some more corrections. And basically your document becomes, the final document, and that becomes the, final 2 document, final 2, final 3, final 4, and then it just continues on like that. And with the tagging system on Avidnote, you can use these tags to signify this is the draft, this is the version 1, this is the version 2, and this is the final version. And then you use these sort of tags to keep track of the different versions of your document. So if we go to, let me see, Avidnote online, in this screen, screen right now, I'm showing you the sort of overview page on Avidnote once you log in. So in this case, I've already uploaded a lot of papers. So if you before we take a look at a specific paper, let's just see the search capability. So here I have all of my papers in this column, and it goes down. And if I search for a paper, like for instance, here it says Internet of Things, I search Internet, it will immediately find what I'm looking for. If I search for something that is contained in a lot of papers, then it will only find those papers that has that text. The same thing is true for the notes. So here I can search for notes, and it will give me the notes that correspond to this specific keyword. And this saves a lot of time when it comes to keeping track of all your notes. So instead of having everything jumbled around, in different sort of Word files and in different places on your desk, you can keep all of your notes in one place. And then finally, for the tagging system, you can sort and categorize your papers depending on the tags. So in this case, I've created some tags, and you're free to choose any sort of organizational tagging system that you deem worthy. In this case, I have okay, so these are my papers, it's Adam's papers, and then I'm working with Mahmoud, so this is his papers. And for our research team, I've tagged all of these papers. And then for our project, these papers. And finally, if I, for instance, want to have a tagging for papers that I want to read today, I can create a tag for that, and then I create a different tag for papers that I've already read. So it becomes sort of a to-do list thing. And then if you want to separate between papers that deal with a specific area that you're looking at or a specific sort of a genre within the paper that you're writing. So for instance, only theoretical papers that deal with the theory that you're studying, you can keep a specific tag for that. So if we open up an actual paper now, so for instance, let me open up just a random paper. In this case here, I've just written some text that I've copy and pasted here on the left side. And here I can actually write my notes, and I can bold and highlight and things of this nature. And it's also here that I can create my tags. So if I click on the tag symbol, in this case, you can see this paper is tagged to Adam's paper, our research team, and so forth. And it will see all the tags that you've already created. And if you want to create a new tag for this paper and call this paper, for instance, I don't know, the XY category, then you can just create XY and it will associate this paper with that category. And if you need more sort of screen space, you can click the zoom button and it will open up so it's easier to read. And once you're annotating on this right side here, the PDF that you're reading, you can highlight things by just like normal, you drag and you click the highlight button and it will highlight that area. And you can create, of course, different colors. If you're one of those people who likes to color code everything, there's always one person. For instance, in this case, I can call one blue and I can use one for yellow. So maybe this section here is okay. This section here, I need to read to understand better. And I can create different notes within the actual PDF itself. So in this case, I'm going to create a note here to say, I am creating a note. So, and of course, you can write as much as you want on these notes as well. And you can change the color of these also. But for now, let me keep it as yellow. And create a different one. Let me create a different one on a separate page. And for this one here, I'm going to say, okay, so this area here, I don't really understand. So I'm going to mark this as, I'm sorry, I'm not going to remove it. Let me just remove that. You can redact also. So if you don't like something and you think it needs to be removed, then it is possible to sort of, like for instance, mark this and redact it. But what I wanted to show was more, let's say you do have an area that you want to say, okay, so this area here, I want to highlight because I'm interested in this. So, okay, so this is interesting. So I write a note here regarding this. And on a different site here, I don't want this. So I put a different note and I say skip this and it's like irrelevant. And I create a different color for that. And I can even say like an X. So this area here, I can just skip. And this one here, if I want to say, okay, so this is a good area, I can just give it like a check mark and keep it like that. So it becomes sort of easy to keep track of all of these different notes using the system. And if we open up the notation bar, we can actually see everything that we've created here. We can see all of the different notes, like I said, interesting, and it will skip to that specific page. And if you have a different note on another page, it will skip to that page. And you can keep this open or closed depending on where you are. Likewise, this annotation bar also has outline. If the paper has an outline, you can use that. Or like you can see all of the different pages as well. And for some people who prefer to use bookmarks, you can put a bookmark and just create a new bookmark on a specific page, and it will take you to that page. So let me just close this down. The last thing that I wanted to mention when it comes to this PDF tool is that in the PDF tool, you can actually download the paper. So even though I talked about, this physical paper problem, I know that sometimes you actually do need to read things on physical paper because, the eye strain and all of this. So you can click on the print symbol and it will then give you the option to either print it out on your specific printer, or you can just save it as a PDF. And once you save it as a PDF to your computer, you can then use it on your computer or print it out, but you will keep all of these annotations. So every highlight and everything that you've made on the PDF will actually be saved and be ingrained in that PDF. So if somebody prefers to sort of work and take all of their notes and then sort of print it out and give it to somebody else, they can do that. And the final thing that I should mention is also that even though most of our users, when they use Avidnote, they tend to use it on a desktop computer or a laptop because that's the easiest way to write. You can use it on the phone as well, but it's not really made for that purpose when you're writing a lot. Although there is another use case, and that is if you have a sort of an iPad or a Surface Board, you can click on the pen symbol and you can actually take notes by hand. And you can choose the sort of how thick the pen symbol is as well. So if you prefer to write with your hand, you can do that. If you are in a situation where you want to upload something and comment upon it, so you have, for instance, research data or an image of some kind that you want to comment on, you can just upload it to the PDF that you're reading. and it will actually show up. And what you can do then, is you can start commenting on that thing that you uploaded. So in this case, here it is. I uploaded this here, and you can move it around, or minimize it and so forth, in case you have some data or something that you want to comment upon. So I'm just going to throw this out because we don't really need it. So this essentially shows all of the most important things with the PDF system, and of course, like all PDF systems, you can actually search inside the PDF as well. So if we go back again to the home page, if you want to upload a PDF, which is obviously the first thing that you do when you come into the application, you click on the blue button. So this is the most normal way to do it. This way should always work. You click the upload PDF file, and then you just choose the PDFs that you are interested in uploading. It's usually best to do it one by one, although it is possible to upload several PDFs. And then you can, like normal, you can start writing, and you can start creating tags for that paper, like we discussed previously. But once you do upload a PDF manually, it won't get the citation info. You would need to manually put that in. So in this case, the citation, let me see, the author is, the name is this, and the title, I don't know the title, let's just say title here, and the year 2017, and then the type, if it's a journal paper or whatever, you click save, and then it will actually fetch that data. So if you're using something like, say, Mendeley or Zotero, that's fine. Actually, most of our users, we don't replace their typical reference management software because they've already built up a bibliography and a library, but it is compatible. So if you're using Mendeley or Zotero, what you can do is you can use note-taking on Avidnote, and then you can export your references to your reference management software. And you can do that by going to the settings page and then clicking Manage My Data. And then here you can export the references, and you get an option to export references or notes. You just click the references. If you actually want to upload your bibliography, you can do that as well. You just click Import References, and then you choose the reference file. So this reference file, I've already exported it, but essentially it's a very easy process to export. It depends on the software that you're using. But if you go to Mendeley or Zotero, there's an option where they say export to bibtex file. So the important thing, it should be a bibtex document. Once you've exported your bibliography, you can import it, and it should then sort of fill out the references. But you can see here that all of these references, they don't contain the PDF, because these reference management softwares, they typically don't allow you to upload the PDFs together with the references. So you have to manually click on it and then upload the PDF for that specific reference. And then the last thing that I should show is you can actually find papers within the app itself. And the reason I show this last is because it's still a very new feature that we're working on compared to the sort of the button that always works. This one is actually connected to an API like Google Scholar, where we can find papers. So essentially you can find all of the papers here. The ones that don't contain a PDF will show a plus sign. The ones that do contain a PDF, they show the PDF symbol. But sometimes, like I'm sure most of you know, if you go to these databases, it will sometimes say that the PDF is there, but when you click, it doesn't exist there. So this is an issue that we're working on fixing, because sometimes when you click on the PDF, it won't actually import it, and it will tell you an error, and then you have to either refresh the page and see if it comes up, or you will have to go manually find that PDF and then upload it yourself. But when it works, it's like this. It gives you the PDF paper. So in this case, it's some review paper about Einstein. If I go back here, I will see that paper with the reference info. So unlike when you do it manually, it will actually give you the reference info from the start. And if you have any problems that you see in the app when you're using it, we do appreciate feedback because we take that feedback to improve the application. And you just click on the contact button or the feedback button, and you will be able to fill out the feedback that you have. And if you have any questions, you can click the video tutorial, and we'll go through some of the different use cases of Avidnote. So if we go back to the page, the last thing that I want to talk about regarding the Avidnote sort of usage is that the response that we've gotten from academia so far has been very positive. We have users from sort of all major universities in the world. We also have a lot of universities that recommend us on their websites, universities like Princeton University, University of Connecticut, Chalmers University, and others. So essentially, there's the growth in terms of the Avidnote application has been pretty strong the last few months. The application itself is pretty new. In terms of the plans, Avidnote, as I said before, is 100% free for individual use. The only thing we'll limit is the storage capacity. So we have the same storage limitation as Zotero does at 300 megabytes. And that should be enough for hundreds, if not thousands of papers, depending on the size of the paper. And we do charge for institutional use. So if you have a research team and your PI or supervisor wants to purchase it for the whole team, then we do charge that, we charge a fee for that. That is a monthly subscription fee. And where you also get a lot more storage. So you get 10 gigabytes instead of 300 megabytes. And that costs about $20 per month or $200 per year. Depending on how big sort of the group is. If the group is bigger, we actually charge a lot less. The same thing for universities and departments that buy it on a license. So important things when it comes to data, that this is something that users are obviously interested in knowing. We are based in the EU. We're based in Sweden, so we have to follow all of the GDPR rules in terms of the privacy of the data. So everything that you put up on the platform, you own. We don't own any of it. So all of the research data, all of the notes, everything you put up, you own. We own nothing. The data is private by default. That means we don't share it with anyone. We don't even have an advertising model to begin with, so there's no reason to share. Even in the free model, we don't have any ads, and we'll never, as long as we run this business, put up any ads on that platform. The data can be retrieved, and what this means is that there's no data lock-in with Avidnote. Essentially, what you can do is you can choose to retrieve or download that data that you have stored on your own devices at any time you choose. So you're never stuck if you prefer to use a different software. You can always download all your notes and download all your references. For future development, we're working on collaboration and improving that, so you can sort of create teams and you can also create projects. At the moment, we don't have a projects bar. You can use a tagging system to sort of do that, but we want to create a system where you can create specific projects if you're working on this PhD project and this is a different project, and then also create teams that are associated with that where you can collaborate easily in a way that's more similar to something like Google Docs or something of that nature. So this is the next step. The other next step has to do with AI, and we're really, really excited when it comes to the AI. Because we recently got news that we've become part of the OpenAI private beta, which is a very exclusive beta that they're running. OpenAI is probably the most famous AI company at the moment. It's been funded by the likes of Elon Musk and others. And essentially what they've created is a language model tool that's called GPT-3, which you can Google later on. Essentially, it's a model that they have a machine learning algorithm. At least that's how it's sort of learned all of this, its own internal logic, where they've placed millions of, or actually trillions of data points inside the application. In terms of the parameters, we're talking about millions of parameters, and it's learned basically a human language in a level that we haven't seen before. So in this, like for instance, this demo, you can put in some complicated text and it can translate that complicated text and summarize it as if it was talking to a second grader and give examples of that legal, in this case, legal document. So, and in other cases, the sort of algorithm has been able to produce articles that are 100% unique and that sound exactly like as if a human being had written it. So it's very exciting times in some ways and also very scary times in other ways. But there are ways to use this AI, we think, in the academic use to make it easier, basically, and remove repetitive tasks. So when we're writing literature reviews, we envision a future where it becomes easier to do so by inputting a group of papers. So you've identified relevant papers to your own paper that you're writing. You put that into the algorithm in Avidnote, which is connected to this API, and then we can give you a literature review based on those papers. that is written as if it's been written by a human. And obviously, this is your paper, so you have to go through it and see, because these algorithms are obviously not a substitute for creative research. So you have to go through that and edit it and make sure that it fits within your research paper. But essentially, we view this as a way to save time, in the same way that spell checkers save you time when it comes to grammar and spell checking. We think AI can sort of play a much bigger role when it comes to writing those parts of the research paper that is sort of repetitive. The same thing can be said about sort of the abstract. If you're writing a summary or a conclusion part, the conclusion chapter in your paper is more or less a summary of the most important conclusions that you have. And here you can train an AI to recognize that and produce a conclusion chapter. The same thing can be said about the abstract. Instead of writing the abstract in the end yourself, you could let the computer suggest an abstract, and then you can see if it makes sense, or you can edit it based on that. So this is a way to sort of save time, which we think could revolutionize the way that research papers are written. And then smart citations, that's another way that you can use this AI. Essentially, what we want to do is, let's say you have written a paper, you have 100 people who have cited that paper, but you don't know really how many people support that paper and how many people reject it. So an AI could analyze what they call opinion mining or sentiment analysis, where it recognizes, is this a positive citation or is this a negative one? And of course, in many cases, it's undetermined. But in the cases where it is determined, it could say, so this paper has 100 citations. Of those 100 citations, actually 60 people agree, 20 people disagree, and the rest is undetermined. So it can give you a sort of a percentage score of how much people agree with that paper or the author. So you can see this author, how many people actually agree with him or her, and how many people disagree with this person. So it's very exciting times in terms of what you can do. And then finally, the example that I began with, I think it could use this application or this API, AI API to make it easier to read papers. So if a paper is complicatedly written, which I think most research papers are by default, you could put it in and then let it give you a summary, which is easier to read and easier to understand for a human. So with that, I think I've covered everything that I wanted to cover. I'm glad that you could come here today and take part in this presentation. And we welcome really any feedback that you have or any questions. If you have any questions, I'd be more than glad to try to answer them now. If you have nothing that you're thinking about at the moment, you can just contact us at hello@avidnote.com, or you can contact me directly by just saying adam@avidnote.com, and I'll try to respond as quickly as possible.